A secret crush romance written by Serena Hart. Prologue. Natalie Wynn never planned to see Adrian cross again. Not after the way she left him 6 years ago, and certainly not as the CEO deciding her future. But when a dream engineering position opens at his company, she applies anyway, desperate to prove herself and help her grandmother before time runs out. Adrian built his billion-dollar tech firm by keeping emotions locked behind glass walls. Natalie was the one person who ever saw past them, and the one who made sure he'd never forget the cost. Her return stirs up more than old memories. It puts them both in the crosshairs of corporate rivalries, a dangerous product leak, and the undeniable pull neither of them has ever outrun. As late-night problem-solving blurs into stolen glances, as strawberry candies and shared playlists resurface like ghosts from a gentler time, Natalie must decide if she's brave enough to tell the truth about why she left. And Adrian must choose whether to trust her again, or lose her for good. Second chances are never simple. But sometimes they're the only way forward. Chapter 1. The Mirror Cracks. The first time Natalie Wynn decided to ruin her own life, it was a Tuesday. A sticky late spring Tuesday in Ravenwood City, the kind where the air smelled faintly of damp textbooks and overcooked cafeteria noodles. She was 18, and every decision she made felt like it was meant to be a statement. A rebellion. Or in this case, a direct shot at Kara Voss's perfectly symmetrical life. The plan had been simple in her head: get close to Adrian Cross, the untouchable top scorer of Ravenwood High, make Kara jealous, and watch her rival's flawless composure crack. What she hadn't counted on was that Adrian would be, well, Adrian. He was leaning against the stone wall outside the physics lab when she found him, sunlight catching the edges of his hair in a way that made it look darker, richer. He wore his usual black hoodie despite the weather, sleeves pushed up just enough to show his forearms. His eyes, cool gray with something stormier underneath, flicked up from the coding manual he was reading. "You're blocking my light," he said, voice calm but edged, like he'd been expecting her all along. She blinked. Hi. Smooth. Very smooth. He didn't smile, but one corner of his mouth twitched, like he was giving her credit for trying. "Natalie Wynn. You need something?" She practiced this. She told herself she wouldn't fidget. But now, with him watching her like she was both a puzzle and a potential security threat, her palms felt damp. "I was wondering if you could help me with, programming?" Adrian closed the manual, tilting his head slightly. "Programming? Or beating Kara in the robotics competition?" Natalie froze. "What makes you think?" "Because you don't need help with programming." He studied her like he could see every layer she was trying to hide. "And because Kara's been glaring at you for the last week." Natalie's stomach dropped. He'd noticed. Of course he had. Adrian noticed everything. "I could help," he said finally. "But why should I?" There it was. The challenge. She swallowed and forced herself to meet his gaze. "Because maybe I'm worth helping." For a moment, neither of them spoke. A breeze slipped through Westbourne Alley below, carrying the faint sound of the cafe jukebox playing Sunny Days, a song that would later stick to her memory like gum to a shoe. Adrian's eyes flicked past her, toward the street, then back. "Fine," he said, pushing off the wall. "After school." The hidden loft. She knew the place. Everyone did. It was a small, half-forgotten storage room above the old library wing, accessible only if you knew which door stuck just enough to need a sharp tug. Natalie hadn't expected that agreeing to his offer would be the first crack in a mirror she'd spend years trying to piece back together. The hidden loft smelled like dust and old books, but Adrian had claimed a corner as if it were his own apartment. 2 mismatched chairs. A desk scattered with circuit boards, a laptop, and a jar of strawberry candies. She perched on the edge of the chair across from him. "You come here often?" His eyebrow lifted. "That's my line." She rolled her eyes, but it was hard to ignore the way her heart thudded when he leaned in to look at her code. His fingers were deft, tapping keys with precision. "Your logic's solid," he said. "But you're overcomplicating the loop. Sometimes simpler is better." It was stupid how much she wanted to impress him. Stupid how the warmth in his voice made her feel like she wasn't just another player in Ravenwood High's endless competition for top scores and social dominance. 2 hours passed before she realized the sky outside had turned the color of wet slate. When they packed up, Adrian walked her to the bus stop. They stood in the quiet, street lamps flickering to life, the air cool against her skin. "You really want to beat Kara?" he asked, watching the approaching headlights. Natalie hesitated. "I want to be more than what people think I am." Something softened in his expression. Then, without warning, he stepped forward and wrapped his arms around her. It wasn't a long hug, barely 3 seconds, But it was warm, solid, and completely unexpected. "For what it's worth," he said quietly, "I think you already are." The bus arrived, breaking the moment. She got on, her pulse still quick, and turned to see him standing there under the streetlight, hands in his pockets, watching until the bus pulled away. 6 years later, Natalie Wynn was late. Not late for work, she didn't technically have a job yet, but late for an interview that could very well define the rest of her life. The Seaford Bay skyline gleamed in the distance as she hurried down the sleek marble lobby of Times Square Tower. Continuum Smart Technologies Incorporated occupied the top 10 floors. IoT systems, smart healthcare, robotics, the kind of company she dreamed about while cramming for finals in her cramped Westbourne Alley apartment. She adjusted her blazer and tried not to think about the fact that Adrian Cross owned the place. The receptionist smiled. "Ms. Wynn? The panel is ready for you." The elevator ride was mercifully short. She rehearsed her talking points: degree in engineering, experience in healthcare tech, the Westbourne Robotics Championship win, which she and Adrian had, ironically, both contributed to, though no one else knew that. The interview started smoothly. Ethan Tran, the project manager, asked about her skills. She answered with practiced confidence. Then the door opened and her brain forgot how to function. Adrian Cross walked in. Older now, but in that way some men get, sharper, more defined. His hair was shorter, his suit immaculate, his presence filling the room like an unspoken command. His gaze swept over the panel, then landed on her. And stayed there. "Natalie Wynn," he said as if tasting the name. She forced a smile. "Mr. Cross." The corner of his mouth twitched again, just like it had 6 years ago. Only this time his eyes were unreadable. "Carry on," he told Ethan, taking a seat at the end of the table. But Natalie could feel his attention on her like a pulse, steady and inescapable. She finished her presentation without stumbling, though her heart was doing somersaults. When it ended, Adrian leaned back, tapping a pen against his knee. "Thank you, Ms. Wynn. We'll be in touch." The panel stood, shaking her hand. Adrian's grip was firm, his eyes meeting hers with something that was not quite cold, not quite warm. And just like that, the interview was over. Outside, Natalie exhaled, unsure if she'd passed a job interview or just walked into the first scene of a story she wasn't ready to tell again. Adrian did not believe in omens, but when he stepped into the glass-walled conference room and found the past sitting upright in a white blouse, he felt the familiar ache beneath his ribs like a cracked mirror catching light. He let Ethan steer the questions. He let the panel nod and scribble. He even kept his expression board, the one investors called disciplined, and Damian Holt privately called funeral chic. But his pulse misbehaved every time Natalie Wynn lifted her eyes from the slide deck and met his. 6 years had not sanded her edges. She had simply learned to wear them like jewelry. When the interview ended and the others filed out, he stayed a second longer, pretending to delete emails. Out in the corridor, he watched her walk toward the elevators with that half-hurried stride he remembered from high school, the one that always made him want to slow time. "Don't," he warned himself. "Do not." She pressed the call button. The mirrored doors threw her reflection back at her. Neat, composed, resolute. Then her mouth tugged like she was fighting a memory. Maybe the hidden loft. Maybe the bus stop. Maybe the strawberry candies he no longer kept because they tasted too much like hope. He took a step. Then another. "Natalie." His voice arrived before he did. She looked over, guarded and luminous at once. "Mr. Cross." The formality stung, which was ridiculous. He had trained for cold. "Do you have a minute?" "For?" "Feedback," he said, because admitting anything else would splinter him. "You were good," he said. "Clear structure. Practical demos. You built the medication adherence algorithm yourself." Her chin tipped up. "Yes." "The encryption layer?" "Yes." "And no, I didn't borrow your old trick from the robotics team." A beat, her mouth softened. "I built my own." You should have smiled. "You didn't? You've grown." "So have you." Her gaze flicked to the city outside. Upward mostly. Silence stretching. Somewhere behind them, a printer coughed, office life resuming as if the last 6 years hadn't just slammed together like weather fronts. He exhaled. "Natalie, about?" The elevator chimed. She broke. "You don't owe me anything. If I pass, great. If I don't, I'll still eat noodles and survive. Thank you for seeing me." She stepped into the car. He watched the doors slide toward each other like a decision. "Wait." He moved before he could stop himself, palms slipping between polished steel and polished steel. The sensors reversed, the doors glided open. A few heads turned. He didn't care. "Coffee," he said. There's a cafe on 42. 5 minutes. This is highly unprofessional, she murmured, but her eyes were laughing like they used to when she broke rules too gently to be caught. Then call it an exit interview. She hesitated long enough for him to taste regret, then stepped out. They walked in strained parallel, like two trains choosing not to collide. The 42nd floor cafe smelled like roasted almonds and deadlines. Adrian ordered an Americano he wouldn't finish and, on reflex, added a small packet of strawberry gummies at the register before catching himself. He left them on the counter like a contraband memory. The barista slid them back across with the receipt. You dropped these. Natalie's gaze flicked from the candies to his face. Still allergic to admitting you're sweet? He pocketed the packet and led her to a corner table. For a moment neither touched their cups. The glass behind Natalie reflected the room. Executives, interns, plants pretending they were forests. In the reflection he looked like a man who had never bled. The lie pleased his bored and irritated his heart. I need to say something, Natalie began, hands locking. Back then I approached you for the wrong reasons. He had imagined the sentence 1,000 times in 1,000 registers. Flippant, tearful, brave. Hearing it now, steady and plain, felt worse and better at once. I know, he said. You knew. Her lashes lifted. I'm a cybersecurity guy. I recognize motives like other people recognize fonts. You tried for humor and failed. But then you started to be you. And I forgot to be angry. You didn't look like you forgot. I remember everything and pretend nothing matters. It's a talent. She breathed out a short laugh that chased the cold from the table. I shouldn't have used you to agitate Kara. He studied her face. That wasn't all you did. Something wet and bright flickered in her eyes and was gone. Relief maybe. Or fear. I want a chance to fix what I broke. Professionally first. Then, if it's not impossible, personally. The word impossible arrived with the weight of its cousin inevitable. He felt the old storm move through him. Love like a secret system reboot. You might get the job regardless, he said, voice returning to executive settings. Ethan will send the decision. And you? She sounded casual. She wasn't. I recuse myself where I'm compromised. His mouth tilted. And you are, undeniably, a conflict of interest. They let that hang between them like a string of lights. From somewhere in the atrium, a pianist rehearsed for a client event, a luminous line of notes winding upward. The melody wasn't Sunny Days, but it threw light on old corners anyway. He slid the packet of gummies across the table. For hypoglycemia, he said. In case noodles fail. Her brows shot up. You remember that? You fainted in physics once. The look on Mr. Alden's face still amuses me. Color rose to her cheeks. I didn't faint. I was dramatically horizontal. The corner of his mouth finally, traitorously lifted. A tactical recline then. They were smiling now, both of them, like people whose shipwreck had started to grow flowers. Adrian, she said, sudden and quiet. Did you ever hate me? He glanced at the city. He could lie, he was fluent. Instead he told the half-truth that fit into daylight. I tried. Me too, she said. It didn't work. He cleared his throat. Natalie, if you come to Continuum, Kara is here. She'll test every seam. Victor Samuels is orbiting, which means sabotage has a subscription. I won't protect you unfairly. But I won't let you drown either. I wasn't planning to drown, she said, and the underdog/seeker in her finally stood up. I was planning to swim. Good, he said. We have a bay. Gently. The doors closed on his reflection and opened on a long day. Chapter 2, Sunny Days. Ravenwood measured time in exam seasons and gossip cycles. Natalie measured it in songs. The spring she and Adrian first drifted close, Starlight Cybercafe's jukebox adopted one anthem, Sunny Days, hopeful enough to make the espresso hiss in major chords. 6 years later, after the interview, she stood in Westbourne Alley while a busker tried the same melody on a dented guitar. The city had upgraded everything except this street. Cobble still tripped heels. Natalie breathed in warm sugar and promised she would not become the kind of adult who only remembered the hard parts. Hey, Rachel Moore called from the cafe door, balancing a to-go cup. You look like someone who just saw a ghost and bought him coffee. I didn't buy him coffee, Natalie said, taking the cup. He bought me hypoglycemia insurance. Candies? Rachel grinned. Adrian Cross remains a vending machine of mixed signals. They claimed a corner table. Grace Yuan slid into the third chair with the momentum of a loyal accomplice. Report. The presentation went fine, Natalie said. Adrian recused himself. He gave me gummies. He warned me Kara works there, and that Sabotage has a membership plan. So, a normal Tuesday, Grace said. Kara thinks oxygen is a limited resource, Rachel added. If you join, she'll file a complaint about your breathing. Let her, Natalie said, surprised by her own steadiness. I'm not 18 anymore. I don't need to win by theatrics. Grace pushed over a napkin. Write it down. Goals. Natalie tapped a pen. Build things I'm proud of. Help people like my grandma. No baiting, no proving, just doing. Also, honesty with Adrian. We are so old, Rachel sighed. The jukebox fizzed into Sunny Days. Reflex tugged Natalie's eyes to the door, as if the song could manifest Adrian. He did not appear. A boy in a robotics hoodie did, lugging a toolbox, and the past politely bumped shoulders with the present. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Hi, this is Ethan Tran from Continuum. Free for a quick call? She put it on speaker. Hi, Ethan. Thanks for coming in, he said. The panel was impressed. We'd like to move to the next step. Offer contingent on references and a short technical trial. Smart care team under me. Rachel did a silent cartwheel. Grace made jazz hands. That sounds perfect, Natalie said, keeping her voice professional. When would I start? Monday if possible. Security orientation tomorrow. Heads up. Kara Voss will be in our unit. She's talented and spirited. I'm aware, Natalie said, a smile she didn't authorize tugging at her mouth. After the call, the cafe became a small parade, confetti texts, celebratory waffles, a quick daydream in which future Natalie executed code like music. Then her father rang. Douglas Wynn's voice contained the weather. Your grandmother's appointment is Thursday. Do not forget. I won't, she said. I got a job offer. Seaford Bay. The sound meant assessment sliding toward control. Send me the contract. I will review. I can handle it. You thought you could handle life at 18 and look how that ended, he said. Obedience is not defeat, it is infrastructure. I'll send it, she lied. Good girl, he said and hung up. Rachel's hand found her wrist. You okay? I'm going to be truly okay soon, Natalie said and heard herself mean it. Seaford Bay's wind pushed at her blazer as she walked into Times Square Tower the next morning. Security orientation happened in a room with plants and a photo of waves. Damian Holt ran it with the weary charisma of a man who had seen every breed of corporate disaster. Welcome to Continuum, he said. Rule 1, badges visible. Rule 2, if you don't know what a device does, don't plug it in. I am begging you. Laughter rolled. Natalie spotted Kara at the back, immaculate in slate. Their eyes met. Kara's mouth lifted, not a smile. At the break, Kara drifted over. Natalie. What an unexpected hire. I competed like everyone else, Natalie said, pleasant as a white curtain. Sure. Kara's gaze skimmed her badge. Smart care under Ethan. Brave. Victor Samuels is consulting. He respects talent. Also leverage. Good thing I have the first, Natalie said. The second doesn't fit. Kara's lashes lowered. We'll see. Damian materialized. Kara, IT needs you. When she left, he turned to Natalie. I don't usually interrupt gladiator matches, but I like my floors blood-free. Appreciated. You're one of Adrian's what-ifs, he added. That makes you a tourist attraction and a lightning rod. Keep your head down, briefly. Build something no one can argue with. I can do that. By noon she had an email, a desk with a view of cranes stitching the bay, and a folder labeled trial. The assignment looked simple. Optimize a medication reminder for elderly patients, with unreliable Wi-Fi, tremor-affected taps, and unpredictable schedules. She fell into flow, compressing assets, smoothing latency, building a forgiving tap area that adapted to micro-delays. Ethan pinged a cheering emoji. She allowed herself 2 strawberry gummies and felt absurdly fortunate. At 4, her screen blinked a security alert, unusual outbound traffic from a smart care test device. A heartbeat later, a text from an unknown number appeared. Check the sandbox server. Port 55413. Her stomach did an unhelpful swoop. She checked. Someone had tried to siphon anonymized behavior logs. The attempt was clumsy and hurried like a raccoon in a jewelry store. She flagged it, routed logs to Damian, and locked the port, cheeks warm with adrenaline. Then she typed a reply she almost didn't send. Thanks. Coffee later? To talk firewall layers. And 3 dots pulsed. Stopped. Pulled half a smile from her anyway. She saved her work and went to the window. Ships moved like good ideas, leaving silver stitches on the water. In the glass she saw herself, older, steadier, almost brave. Somewhere in the building, a piano began the chorus of Sunny Days. She let the music find her breathing and did not run from it. Adrian avoided the 42nd floor cafe for 3 hours after Natalie's text, exactly long enough to pretend he hadn't been waiting. He finally replied, 6:15 atrium, near the ficus that thinks it's a tree. At 6:14 he was already there. Natalie arrived in sneakers and a blazer. Hi, she said, and the small word carried 1,000 unsent ones. Hi, he said, passing her a cup. Warm milk. Don't faint on company time. I remain loyally horizontal, she said, smiling through the steam. Thanks for the warning about the port. I locked it and sent logs to Damian. I saw. Nice work. Smelled like someone testing Victor's leash. Or a contractor who thinks anonymized logs don't count, she said. Victor believes consequences happen to other people, Adrian said. Kara believes in victory like a religion. That's poetic for a man in black suits. I outsource metaphors. He gestured to a table under the ficus. People streamed past. A city of private stories moved around them. I have a rule now, she said, settling. Honesty first. I want this job for me, not to spite Kara. And I want, she chose the word, to see if we can mend what we broke without pretending it was never broken. He could have quoted policy. Instead, I don't know how, but I want to learn. Good, she said. My grandmother is forgetting things. I'm learning that love is remembering on someone else's behalf. How is she? Some days she calls me by my mother's name. Some days she sings Sunny Days and tells me to buy sweets for the boy at the bus stop. I don't tell her he's gone. He's not, he said before he could stop himself. Her eyes lifted. The atrium briefly hushed. A smart care intern tripped, scattering printouts. Natalie knelt, stacked pages, sent the girl away smiling. Ethan's thrilled, Adrian said when she returned. Expect tight deadlines. Same, she said. It's how I graduated. You'll get access to the Cloudcrest labs. If you need a quiet place to think, text me. The hidden loft has a successor. She touched the past without touching him. I still think about that room. How you kept strawberry candies in a jar like tiny red planets. Hope is an irritant, he said. It keeps the eye from sleeping. Then keep it irritated. I like you awake. They talk problems, their truce language. User flows. Fall detection on frail wrists. Making a notification feel like care, not scolding. He watched her mind map routes around human error, and something in his chest unclenched. My father called, she said. He wants to review my contract. I don't intend to let him. Need legal? I need a spine. I'm growing one. He nodded. If he insists, let HR bore him into retreat. The skylight went indigo. He didn't want the conversation to end. Walk you out. Only if you promise not to carry me when I lie down for dramatic effect. I'll wheel you on a cart, he said. Automation. The elevator opened on 28 and admitted Kara Voss with Victor Samuels. Kiss and coffee, Victor drawled. How quaint. No kissing at work, Adrian said, neutral as policy. Kara's smile didn't reach her eyes. Congratulations, Natalie. I hear Smart Care believes in redemption arcs. I hear Cloudcrest believes in privacy settings, Natalie replied. Victor's gaze flicked to the strawberry packet peeking from Adrian's pocket. Still into Sweets Cross? Cute. Still into other people's property, Victor? Adrian said mildly. The doors closed. Sorry, Natalie said. For them? Don't be. He exhaled. They mistake spectacle for power. Power is the quiet thing that keeps the lights on. Thank you for the milk, she said. And the port. And not flinching. Thank you for not running. And for that notification flow that looks like a hand, not an alarm clock. She hesitated. Tomorrow after work, there's a market in Westbourne. Lanterns, waffles, a guy who sings off-key. If you want to. Yes, he said too quickly. Text me the time. She smiled in a way that made the cracked mirror inside him look reparable. Good night, Adrian. Good night, Natalie. She walked into the city. He stood a moment, then looked at his reflection. Tired, hopeful, human, and decided hope could be both irritant and cure. Next morning, the building woke hungry. Natalie arrived early, tuned her trial build, and pushed a test update that replaced nagging chimes with a soft two-tone the ear could follow without anxiety. She wrote tooltips like small kindnesses, you're doing great. Let's try again together. At 10, Damian forwarded a note. Attempted data pull trace to a contractor tied to Victor. Investigation ongoing. Good catch, he added. Also, nice tone on those prompts. Ethan pinged, can you demo at noon? Boardroom B. Kara will be there. So will I, armed with snacks. She replied, I work for snacks. At 11:55 she set her phone face down. Kara sat opposite, expression politely carnivorous. Victor lounged near the window until Damian asked him, with velvet boredom, to take a chair or a hike. Natalie began. She showed latency fixes, explained the adaptive tap area, then cued the new tone. The room listened. The sound was small and kind, like someone opening a window. Patients with tremors improved task completion by 20% in our microtest, she said. Fewer errors. Less frustration. We also added an I'll do it later, that means later, not forever. Ethan grinned. Damian approved without smiling. Kara's pen paused. Good, Adrian said from the doorway. Ship it to the pilot cohort. Kara's head tilted. Without my review? With your later feedback, he said. Care beats perfect. Natalie closed her laptop. For a heartbeat the room was breath and the faint chord the tone left in memory. She allowed herself one thought. Sunny days aren't always loud. Sometimes they're a window opening. Outside, Seaford Bay flared like a promise. Inside, she pocketed 2 strawberry gummies and chose to believe in mending. Chapter 3, The Rivalry Rekindles. The Westbourne night market bloomed in warm golds and oranges, lanterns swinging above rows of waffle stands, trinket stalls, and steaming carts of skewers. Natalie stood at the entrance, checking her phone like a teenager on a first date, though she refused to call it that. She spotted Adrian immediately. He was easy to find, black coat, hands in pockets, the crowd naturally parting for him without being asked. It wasn't his height or his looks, though those didn't hurt. It was that stillness he carried, like the eye of a storm. You're early, he said, stopping in front of her. You're earlier, she countered, falling into step beside him. Hungry? I could eat, he said, scanning the stalls with a tactician's gaze. What's good? Lantern waffles, she said. But you'll get powdered sugar on your... He was already buying 2, handing one to her. Occupational hazard. They walked, passing the fortune teller's booth where an old man tapped a crystal ball with theatrical disinterest. Natalie caught herself smiling. The market smelled like fried dough and rain-soaked stone. The air was cool, but the kind that carried laughter without breaking it. So, Adrian said, Smart Care is impressed with your build. Damian's less grumpy than usual. High praise. She took a bite of waffle. What about Kara? She's circling. Waiting for you to trip. She'll push harder after today. I know, Natalie said, brushing sugar from her sleeve. Let her. I'm not 18 anymore. I'm not playing the same game. He glanced sideways, something like pride shadowing his features. That's exactly what worries her. They stopped at a stall selling little glass animals. Natalie's fingers hovered over a tiny fox, orange and delicate. You used to like the wolves, Adrian said. I still do, she replied. But foxes survive by being clever. He didn't argue. From across the market, Kara appeared, draped in a slate-gray coat, hair sleek under the lantern light. Victor followed, his usual smirk in place. The two approached like a scene that had been rehearsed. Fancy meeting you here, Kara said. This is Westbourne, Natalie replied. Not exactly a rare sighting. Victor looked between them. Work dinners, street markets. Rumor mill's going to eat this up. Only if you feed it, Adrian said, voice dry enough to cut paper. Kara ignored him. I saw your trial build. It's charming. Let's hope charm holds up under pressure. Natalie smiled. Charm's just the demo. Performance is the product. Kara's eyes narrowed the way they had in high school, when she'd realized Natalie could match her in physics. We'll see. She took Victor's arm and walked away, the air cooling slightly in their wake. Adrian exhaled. That wasn't a coincidence. No, Natalie agreed. And I don't care. You should, he said, but there was a flicker in his gaze, approval maybe or recognition. They finished their waffles, wandering toward the pier where the water reflected the lanterns like spilled light. Natalie leaned on the railing, feeling the wood warm from the day's sun. Why did you really ask me to coffee that first day? She asked. He didn't look at her. To see if you were going to run again. And if I had? I'd have let you, he said. But I'd have followed. The honesty caught her off guard. She looked at him, trying to read the storm. You're dangerous, she said softly. So are you, he replied. They stood there a moment longer, the water shifting below, the night folding in around them like an old, unfinished story. Monday came with the subtle weight of confrontation. Kara arrived at SmartCare early, stationed herself near the coffee machine, and greeted every engineer except Natalie. Ethan noticed. Ignore her. She's got a big review coming up. Needs to feel important. Natalie just nodded, opening her trial build logs. The data pull attempts had stopped, either because Victor had been warned off or because he was being more careful. She didn't like either option. By mid-morning, Kara slid into the chair next to her without asking. Your adaptive tap area. It's cute. But it's going to overload the UI memory if we scale to 1,000 concurrent devices. You test for that? Yes, Natalie said, turning her monitor so Kara could see. Memory stays stable at 1.6% load increase. Kara's brows lifted, then smoothed. We'll see in the field. She left before Natalie could reply. Adrian stopped by her desk an hour later, a paper coffee cup in hand. Don't let her pace you. You run your own race. I'm fine, Natalie said. You're better than fine. That's why she's here so much. She wanted to ask what here meant, but he'd already turned toward Damian's office, coat sweeping behind him like punctuation. By 5, the day had been long enough that the memory of the market felt like another season. But when she checked her phone, there was a new message. Hidden Loft successor. Friday night. If you want to see. She smiled, the kind of smile she didn't have to explain to anyone, and typed back. I'll bring the gummies. Friday evening arrived draped in the kind of rain Ravenwood never entirely escaped. Misty, clinging, turning streetlights into blurred halos. Natalie followed Adrian through a side entrance of the Continuum building, past security with a nod that said he'd already cleared her. This isn't technically on the tour map, he said as they stepped into a narrow stairwell. Sounds familiar, she replied. For flights up, he stopped at a door without a label. A keycard swipe, a faint click, and they were inside. The room was nothing like the dusty hidden loft. This space was clean lines and soft light, one wall glass looking out over Seaford Bay. A long table was scattered with half-built prototypes, wearables, sensor arrays, a robotic arm with an unfinished grip. This is, she took it in slowly, an engineer's dream apartment. Lab, he corrected. Though there's a couch if you ever need to think horizontally. She laughed. And you keep this to yourself? Not entirely. Damian uses it when the main labs are too noisy. Ethan comes in sometimes. But mostly it's mine. Natalie walked to the window. The bay was all shifting steel and silver under the rain, cranes blinking red against the dim sky. She could see why he came here. It felt apart from everything but still at the city's heart. So why bring me? She asked, turning. You work better when you're not in the open, he said. And this, he gestured to the table, is where I work when I actually want to build, not just manage. On the table sat a small white box. Natalie lifted the lid. Inside was a wearable cuff, sleek and light. What is it? Prototype for remote heart rhythm monitoring, he said. SmartCare's next big push. We want something hospital grade but comfortable enough for daily life. Kara doesn't know it's this far along yet. She's going to hate that I saw it first, Natalie said. He smiled faintly. That's not why I showed you. She looked up at him. Then why? Because you'll see what's missing. Her mind was already moving, thinking about user comfort, elderly dexterity, UI feedback that wouldn't overwhelm. The clasp, she said after a moment. People with arthritis might struggle. It needs a softer snap, maybe magnetic assist. Adrian's gaze sharpened. Exactly. They spent the next hour bent over the table, sketching adjustments, testing latch designs on a 3D printer in the corner. The easy flow of collaboration was almost disorienting. How quickly old rhythms resurfaced when they weren't guarding their words. At one point she reached for a tool at the same time he did. Their fingers brushed. Neither moved right away. He broke it with a quiet, you used to overcomplicate loops. You used to hoard strawberry candies, she said. I still do. They're just in the second drawer of that cabinet. She gave him a mock glare, opened the drawer and found the jar, unchanged except for a thin layer of dust. These are at least 5 years old. They age well. She put the jar down. No, they don't. By the time they packed up, it was past 10. Adrian locked the door behind them, the stairwell echoing with their footsteps. Outside, the rain had eased to a fine drizzle. He walked her toward Westbourne, coat collar up against the wind. Kara's going to push for you to be assigned to her oversight next quarter, he said. I can handle her, Natalie replied. She'll make it personal. It already is, she said. But so is my reason for being here. He glanced at her. Which is? To build something worth the hours. And to see if we can work together without destroying each other. A corner of his mouth lifted. Ambitious. Ambition's an irritant, she said, throwing his own words back. They reached her street. The windows of the Starlight Cyber Café glowed against the damp night, just like when they were students. The jukebox was playing softly, sunny days threading through the glass. You hear that? She asked. I've heard it every time I've walked by this street since I was 18, he said. Never went inside. Why not? Didn't want to sit at the table without you there. The admission landed between them, fragile and unguarded. Natalie looked at him for a long moment before stepping back toward her door. Good night, Adrian, she said. He didn't move until she was inside. The rain started up again as he turned toward the bay, the song still playing behind him like an echo from another life. Monday's all-hands meeting was standing room only. Damian ran through quarterly numbers, Kara outlined upcoming client presentations, and Adrian spoke briefly about innovation pipelines. Natalie kept her focus on the slides, until she noticed Kara's next bullet point, Smart Care UI Review, Lead, and Win. Heads turned. She blinked. She hadn't been told she'd be presenting to the board. Kara smiled sweetly from the podium. Natalie will walk us through her adaptive tap area work, as well as initial concepts for the wearable integration. She's uniquely positioned to give insight. It was a challenge dressed as an opportunity, and everyone in the room knew it. Adrian said nothing, his expression unreadable, but his gaze met Natalie's for a half-second, a question and a warning in one. Natalie squared her shoulders. Looking forward to it, she said aloud. Inside she thought, fine Kara. Let's see who cracks first. Chapter 4, Pressure Points. The day of the review threaded itself through Natalie's nerves like a thin wire. She woke before dawn to the quiet of Westbourne Alley, lay there a minute listening to the radiator tick, and told herself 3 useful lies. I am calm. I am ready. I have eaten. She had not eaten. By 8 she was at Seaford Bay, hair pinned, blazer ironed, brain running diagnostics on every slide. Ethan intercepted her outside the boardroom with a grin and a muffin. Carb loading for courage. I'm good, she lied again. You'll be better in 20 minutes, he said, pushing the muffin into her hands. Kara's in theater mode. We'll counter with facts. Facts and muffins, Natalie said. He sobered. Heads up, Victor's invited as a vendor perspective. Damian is not pleased. That makes 2 of us. She set up in boardroom B, glass walls giving the illusion of space while keeping the pressure like weather. The prototypes from Friday, clasp iterations, the softened tone demo, sat on a tray. Adrian wasn't there yet. Kara was immaculate in gray, rehearsing a smile in the dark glass. Break a leg, Kara said lightly. I was going to use both, Natalie replied. People filtered in, Damian with a notebook, Ethan with cables, Victor with a watch that thought highly of itself, and finally Adrian, who brought nothing but attention. Natalie's mouth went dry. Kara cleared her throat. As discussed in all hands, we'll begin with Smart Care's UI progress. Natalie Wynn will present. Natalie stood, the room turning toward her like sunflowers toward a doubtful light. She breathed in through her nose, out through her mouth, and started with the smallest true thing. Good morning. I'm going to talk about making care feel like care. She walked them through the latency fixes and the adaptive tap area, demoed the 2-tone cue that eased instead of scolded, then pivoted to the wearable integration. Our users are humans first. Grip strength varies. Attention wanders. Shame inhibits compliance. So we make the right thing the easy thing. She cued a short video of a test user, Mrs. L, navigating the reminder on a shaky morning, completing her meds with no error prompts. The room softened. Damian's pen made an appreciative tick. Questions? Natalie asked. Victor leaned back. Pretty. But your memory footprint looked optimistic. Do those numbers hold if we stream rhythm data from the wearable? Yes, she said. We offload pre-processing to the cuff, transmit deltas only, and compress with a parameter-aware codec. Average footprint increase is 1.7% across 1,000 devices. Ethan slid a graph onto the screen. The numbers held. Kara's smile thinned. And the clasp. Magnetic assist. Prototypes A through C on the tray. I recommend B for comfort, C for security. Adrian finally spoke. If we choose C, can we add a micro hinge to reduce pinch points? Natalie's pulse did a pleased skip. Yes. I brought a CAD of that variation. She tapped the tablet. A hinge bloomed on the screen. Good, he said. For a minute she forgot her stomach was a hollow drum. She was just a person who loved building things, explaining why that was lovely. Then the world tipped. It was small at first, a dizziness at the edges of vision, a lag between inhale and exhale. She gripped the table. The screen swam, the graph blurred into constellations. Natalie? Ethan said quietly. I'm fine, she said, and wasn't. Of course hypoglycemia would arrive dressed for drama. She reached for her bag, gummies, left pocket, before the floor slid half an inch. A chair scraped, the sound boomed. Adrian was already standing. Sit, he said, low and even, not to the room but to her body, as if it would listen to him. He slid the chair behind her and she folded into it, palms flat on the table for anchor. I have candy, she tried to say, but the sentence tangled. I know, he said. He had her bag open, the packet out, 2 strawberry gummies in his hand. Open. She did. The sugar was ridiculous and perfect. Warm milk would have been slower. This was a spark. Conversation murmured, and then Damian's voice cut it off. 5 minutes. Everyone out except Ethan. Bodies shifted. The room thinned. Adrian crouched at her level, steady as a metronome. Look at me. I'm okay, she said after a breath. I know, he said again, softer. Ethan handed her the muffin. Eat like you mean it. She obeyed. By the time the sugar hit, shame had faded into something stranger. Relief that the person who once watched her faint in physics still knew how to catch the drop. She took a sip of water. Not my best timing. Could have been worse, Ethan said. Could have been journalists. Adrian's mouth moved, almost smile territory. Or investors with fragile constitutions. The room came back into focus. The wire through her nerves relaxed. Damian opened the door. Show's back on. Natalie stood, steadier. I can finish. Take your time, Adrian said. She picked up prototype C, held it so the board could see the closure. As I was saying, C with a micro hinge allows one-handed operation without pinch. It respects arthritis. It respects pride. The respect in the room shifted. Kara watched with a new chill. Victor's smirk looked marooned. Natalie rapped with a simple line, care that feels kind is care people use. She clicked stop on the slide deck and waited. Silence, then Adrian, ship B and C to pilot. Prepare hinge variant. Natalie, lead the sprint. It felt like someone had placed a piece back into the mirror and pressed until it held. Afterward, while colleagues congratulated her, Kara stopped beside her, voice cool. Cute rescue. It was sugar, Natalie said. Physics did the rest. Kara's mouth curved. We're not done. Good, Natalie said. I hate unfinished work. She didn't turn to see Adrian watching them. She didn't need to. The day had chosen its direction and she intended to keep walking. Thank you. The hallway outside boardroom B smelled faintly of printer toner and victory. Ethan fist bumped her. You were stellar, he said. Go breathe before Kara invents a postmortem. 3 messages from Rachel, all caps JOY, 1 from Grace, I told you, and a missed call from her father waited on Natalie's phone. She returned it in the elevator. Dad. Douglas's voice arrived clipped. I read the offer. Salary acceptable. Non-compete is not. I'm already working, she said. I led a sprint today. You led a slide deck. Do not mistake applause for authority. A beat. The family expects you Thursday for your grandmother's evaluation. I'll be there, she said softer. Make sure you are not someone's good story and bad reality. He hung up. The doors opened on the atrium. Adrian stood by the rail, tie loosened. How's the pulse? Less dramatic, she said. Your gummies performed beyond spec. Upgrade to raspberry next sprint. His mouth bent. You did well. Damian joined them. Victor's sulking. Kara's recalibrating. We're granting you lab access. Don't invent a jetpack. No promises, Adrian said. Tonight, Damian added, team drinks. Low-key. Snacks. Natalie thought of her grandmother, then chose not to live entirely in duty. I'll come. The bar near the bay was wood and warmth. Team Smart Care took 2 tables. Ethan told a story about a robot fetching pudding cups with tragic commitment. Even Kara laughed. Victor arrived uninvited, ordering the most complicated thing he could pronounce. To pilots, he said. May they survive vendors, Damian replied. Natalie ordered soda, but the waitress delivered a citrus cocktail the size of a flower pot. She sipped, sunshine tripped down her throat. Adrian slipped in late, the table rearranging itself without moving. He nodded at her glass. Non-alcoholic. I thought so. It's optimism with a lime wheel. Dangerous. He ordered warm milk. Kara lifted her glass. To competition. It keeps us alert. To compassion, Natalie added. It keeps us human. Cute, Victor murmured. Effective, Adrian said, and Victor's mouth twitched shut. The musician slid into Sunny Days. Ethan produced karaoke sign-up sheets with a flourish. Rules, pairs only. Engineers must sing with non-engineers. Groans rose. Natalie found a pen. We're doing this, she told Adrian. Categorically no. Then I'll sing with Damian. Damian saluted. I interpret. Adrian caved. Fine. But we choose a song with an exit strategy. Under string lights they sang a clumsy duet that turned competent by the chorus. Natalie watched his guard lower by degrees and on impulse took his hand. He didn't let go. They stepped down to friendly applause. Not terrible, she said. Agreed. His voice was lighter than she'd heard in years. They found a quieter corner. I might be tipsy, she admitted. You are, he said, amused and concerned. Drink water. She did. Do you ever wish we'd met differently? Without the rival, the plan, the mess. No, he said. I'd still recognize you. I don't want a version that forgets what we learned. What did we learn? That care is action. Forgiveness is work. He hesitated. That I never stopped. Her breath lodged. Adrian. He leaned in slowly. She met him halfway. The kiss tasted of lime and years. It wasn't long. It felt inevitable. A camera click broke it. Kara lowered her phone, expression smooth. Relax, she told the table. I'm documenting morale. Damian stepped between lens and faces without raising his voice. No photos at internal events. Policy. Kara retreated with a shrug that contained no apology. I shouldn't have, Natalie began. You kissed another adult, Adrian said. The scandal will live. Still, she murmured. Come on, he said. I'll walk you to a cab. Outside the bay breathed cold. Lanterns bobbed over the promenade. Thank you for today, she said. For earlier. For the song. Don't thank me for singing. That was a public service failure. She laughed, then swayed. He steadied her elbow. Warmth slipped under the chill. A cab pulled up. He opened the door, then paused. Text me when you're home. She nodded and leaned out the window. I mean it. Thanks. His eyes held hers for a steady beat. Good night, Natalie. Back at her apartment, she texted as promised and added a photo of strawberry gummies on her counter. Medical-grade romance. Some medicines are pleasant. Sleep. Big day tomorrow, he replied. She set the phone down, smiling at the ceiling. The apartment was quiet except for the clock's tick. She hummed Sunny Days, thought of a tattoo she hadn't yet seen, and told herself one true thing. I'm not running. Down on the promenade, a figure leaned on the rail and sent a message to a private thread. She's weak to sugar and songs. Use both. A reply came back. Noted. Tomorrow we test. The lanterns shivered and the night kept the secret. Before sleep could take her, Rachel called. Do I bring confetti or earplugs tomorrow? Both, Natalie said, recounting the duet and the near photo. Damian saved us. He's secretly everyone's dad, Rachel said. Speaking of, your actual one just posted a parable about obedience. Of course he did. A calendar ping reminded her of Thursday's evaluation. She dialed her grandmother. Margaret answered on the third ring, voice thin. Sunny days, she sang, chase the rain away. They do, Natalie said. Do you need anything, Grandma? Candy for the boy at the bus stop, Margaret whispered. He looked cold. I'll bring him some, Natalie promised. She slept with the gummies on the nightstand like a small guardian. Morning brought a text from an unknown number. Vendor sync tomorrow, 11, conference room Delta. Mandatory. VS. She stared at the initials. Victor. Another message chimed from Ethan. Heads up, Victor scheduled a sync. We'll go together. Also, Damian wants your hinge sketch. Natalie exhaled, squared her shoulders and tied her hair back. Mending a broken mirror took patience and steady hands. I have both, she told her reflection and headed into the day. Bravely. Chapter 5 Fault Lines. Conference room Delta looked like an aquarium that forgot the fish. Frosted glass, a wilting fern, chairs. Natalie entered with Ethan and a box of croissants. Victor Samuels arrived 5 minutes late, sunglasses on his head. Kara followed, slate and sharp. Damian strolled in last, friendly the way a locked door is friendly. Vendor sync, Victor said, flipping a USB drive onto the table. Quick demo, then data partnerships. His glance clipped Natalie. Ms. Wynne, I'll want your feedback. Ethan pushed the pastries forward. We listen, we question, and we don't plug orphan drives into company machines. Paranoid, Victor scoffed. Experienced, Damian said, dropping the stick into a Faraday pouch like a magician who hates rabbits. Sandbox only. Victor's smile twitched. Fine. They loaded a sanitized build. Victor narrated with showroom patter. Our ingestion layer reduces latency 30%, guarantees seamless sync. Natalie watched the logs. Most were ordinary. One outbound handshake pinged wrong, a sly hello to a domain with a jokey name. She routed it to null and flagged it. The handshake failed, Victor's jaw tightened. Firewall issue, he said lightly. Firewall success, Damian replied. Natalie asked bland questions that weren't bland. Edge versus central preprocessing, codec behavior, packet loss. Victor launched jargon flares. The answers didn't land. Kara redirected. Let's not drown in implementation. Our patients care about outcomes. They care that outcomes aren't stolen, Natalie said, voice even. Continuum doesn't exfiltrate behavior logs. Damian's phone buzzed. He scanned a message. Security analysis says your drive carried a hidden installer creating a privileged account. Explain. Victor smiled, too many teeth. Maintenance tool. It's a backdoor, Adrian said from the doorway. He hadn't been there a heartbeat before. Now he leaned on the frame, black suit absorbing light, gaze a calm horizon. The room recalibrated. Victor spread his hands. You're overreacting. We're reacting appropriately, Adrian said. To Natalie, what did you see? She described the log in the block, concise as code. Adrian listened, then faced Victor. Your access to our test network is revoked. Answer questions or leave. Either way, the arrangement pauses. Kara's mouth thinned. Adrian? If you want to sponsor vendors who plant backdoors, bring it to executive review, he said, still gentle. Until then, patient data isn't a party favor. Silence pressed like cold glass. Victor collected his ego and sunglasses. This will cost you. Integrity usually does, Adrian replied. Victor left. Kara exhaled a smile. Natalie, your tone was unprofessional. My tone said no in a complete sentence, Natalie said. You've been here 5 minutes. Try humility. Adrian didn't raise his voice. She was correct and measured, and she prevented a breach. If you want to debate tone, schedule a seminar. Otherwise, thank her. Heads turned. It was a public defense and a line drawn. Kara colored, hit it. Duly noted. Afterward, Damian tapped Natalie's shoulder. Nice catch, tap dancer. I prefer tactician, she said. Ethan waggled a croissant. Hero pastry? She bit and felt her hands stop shaking. Adrian lingered by the glass. Walk, he asked. They took the corridor curving toward the bay. Sunlight pooled on the carpet. Rumors sprouted behind them. I meant it, he said. You were clear. Thank you for backing me publicly, she said. I know you prefer stealth. Sometimes mending needs a visible stitch. They stopped by a window. Boats stitched the water. He lifted his sleeve an inch. Ink flashed, the tale of a script she couldn't read. Is that? She began. Another time, he said. Her pulse tripped. Tease. Motivation, he said, then softened. How's your grandmother? Evaluation tomorrow. Some hours are bright. Some are strange. Yesterday she told me to bring candy to the boy at the bus stop. Bring 2, he said. 1 for him, 1 for you. She laughed. Your only party trick? My best one. Work reclaimed them. Natalie wrote tests, tightened flows, added a chamfer to the hinge CD to spare skin. At lunch she drifted to the Starlight Cyber Café, needing ordinary noise. Rachel slid over a lemon tart. You look like you defused a small bomb. Vendor sync, Natalie said. Victor brought a backdoor in a suit. This is why I date artists, Rachel said. Their sabotage includes glitter. Outside, a busker played Sunny Days, wrong chord and all. Natalie left coins and a gummy. The kid grinned like an unbroken loop. Back at Continuum, Kara appeared at her desk, voice low. Careful Wynne. You're collecting advocates. That's also how one collects enemies. I prefer colleagues, Natalie said. You could try being one. I don't do consolation prizes, Kara said. Neither do I, Natalie replied. At 5, a text from Adrian, Cloudcrest at 8? Test Class B with cold hands. The couch is good for thinking. I'll bring tea. You bring the second drawer. A dot then, yes. Evening thickened. Cloudcrest's gate recognized his plate and opened like a secret. The house was black lines and quiet brightness. Books and a crooked photo softened it. A bus stop bench, 2 teenagers half hidden by shy joy. Natalie stopped. Is that? Yes, he said. You kept it. I told myself I kept it to remember what not to forgive. He held her gaze. It never worked. Her throat tightened. I'm sorry for the beginning, she said. I'm not sorry for the middle or for wanting a future. Good, he said. Me neither. They tested clasps while rain stitched the windows. Tea steamed. When her fingers slipped, his steadied them. When his jaw locked, her laugh loosened it. She replaced the jar in the second drawer with a fresh packet of strawberry gummies. Upgrading inventory. He watched the act like it was large. Stay a while. I have to be up early, she said, but yes. They worked until the room felt like harbor, until a neighbor hummed sunny days, until the broken mirror inside her began to look less like shards and more like a mosaic, edges intact, pattern emerging, light collecting in the seams. Natalie woke before her alarm to the sound of rain on glass. For a moment she thought she was still at Cloudcrest, warm, tea in reach, prototypes on the table, but the radiator's groan reminded her she was back in Westbourne. Thursday meant her grandmother's evaluation. It also meant dealing with Douglas Wynne in his element, clipboard authority and unshakable opinions. She dressed in quiet colors and packed a scarf Margaret liked to fidget with, plus a fresh packet of strawberry gummies. At St. Clair's Memory Clinic, Margaret sat in the waiting area, coat buttoned wrong, humming the first bars of Sunny Days. You brought the candy, she said, patting Natalie's hand. For the boy at the bus stop. I did, Natalie replied, unwrapping one. But you get the first. Douglas arrived late, scanning the intake forms. You've been working long hours, he said as if it were a diagnosis. I'm fine, Natalie said. Continuum is worth it. That company will take your time and give you applause, he said. Neither pays the bills if they drop you. They won't, she said, but the certainty was for herself. The evaluation went as expected. Moments of clarity from Margaret, gentle confusion in between. Douglas pressed the specialist on every metric. Natalie focused on Margaret's hands, warm in hers. When they left, her grandmother leaned close and whispered, He worries like your mother. At the curb, Douglas surprised her. You're doing well with her. Thank you, she said. Don't let sentiment cloud your judgment, he added, then walked away under his umbrella. Back at Continuum, Ethan was waiting. Lab meeting. Adrian wants you there. In the lab, class prototypes lay in neat rows, a tray of printed hinge variations beside them. Adrian stood at the whiteboard, sleeves rolled, sketching how Clasp C could integrate sensors without adding bulk. Natalie, he said, gesturing her closer. Show them the arthritis assist. She demonstrated, her fingers moving with the ease of someone who'd already argued the design with herself a dozen times. Damian tested it, nodded once. Better. Less bite on the edge. Ethan grinned. You two make a scary efficient pair. Kara entered mid-demo, her gaze sharp. Integrating sensors before UI finalization? Bold. It's called parallel progress, Adrian said. Reduces overall timeline. Kara's mouth curved. Or doubles rework if one side fails. Then we fix it, Natalie said. Like engineers do. A flicker passed between them, challenge accepted. After the meeting, Adrian caught Natalie by the door. How was the evaluation? She sang, Natalie said. That's a good day. Good, he said, and his voice was warmer than the room. The rest of the afternoon was a sprint, code reviews, minor bug fixes, and a last-minute call from a pilot site about tap sensitivity on an older tablet model. Natalie pushed a patch, then noticed an unfamiliar process running in the sandbox server. She traced it to a test account created 2 hours earlier, credentials tagged to a contractor Victor had vouched for. She flagged it to Damian. Same pattern as before? Similar enough to ruin my evening, Damian muttered. Good catch. Again. By the time she left, the rain had turned into a steady sheet. She debated going home but found her feet leading her toward Cloudcrest. Adrian opened the door before she could knock. You looked like you were debating, he said. I was deciding between soup and collaboration, she replied. He smiled faintly. Come in. The second drawer's been replenished. They worked at the long table, prototypes between them, rain outside. She told him about Margaret's scarf, Douglas's half compliment, the contractor account. He told her about upcoming board pressure to accelerate SmartCare's rollout. Too fast and we miss something, she said. Exactly, he replied. I'd rather keep the hinge smooth than launch with a pinch. Hours passed. At some point she curled her legs under her and he made tea without asking. The warmth between them felt unforced, built layer by layer like the clasp they kept improving. When she finally stood to leave, he walked her to the door. Natalie, he began, then stopped. What? His gaze held hers. Don't let Kara or Victor make you doubt your place here. You're already part of this. Her chest tightened, not with fear but with the weight of being seen. Good night, Adrian. He didn't answer right away. Then, good night. And, bring the tea next time. She left under the rain, the bay lights glimmering ahead, and thought of her grandmother's song, her father's warnings, and the quiet steadiness of working beside him. It wasn't perfect, but the cracks in the mirror were starting to look like something she might keep. Thank you for listening to Silent Heart Story, where every love that couldn't be said is finally heard. If today's story touched something quiet in you, a memory, a secret wish, or simply the feeling of being seen, then stay with us. Subscribe and tap the bell so you never miss a heartbeat. Every day, a new whisper awaits.